Astrology is essentially a highly structured um, system of applied symbolism. In other words, in astrology there are lots of symbols to take into account. There are the individual components of the signs, of the planets, and the houses of the horoscope, the signs deriving from the apparent path of the sun around the earth, called the ecliptic, and that is spread out, if you like, into the solar system, and that creates a kind of band against which the planets can be seen. Each sign has 30 degrees to it. The planets themselves, we call them planets, even though the sun and moon are not planets, and even though Pluto has been a few years ago demoted as a planet, we still call it that, and also the planetoid of Chiron is also included. Some astrologers include other planets, or even invent some planets, I think, as well. But for our purposes, there are 10. And the houses of the zodiac are dependent on where the eastern horizon, from where we're born. If you draw a line from where we're born, our position to across the eastern horizon, you take it out into the solar system, there will be that line will cross through a particular sign, and that's called the ascending sign. And from that is measured 12 independent segments of the earth. These are called the houses, and they reflect a certain kind of symbolism, or your location in time and space, as it were. The signs are not located in time and space, they're located out there. They're imaginary to a certain extent, although built on certain computations. But they've been noted to be significant because they give form, or they give substance to the planets. So they're kind of like a clothing in which the planet uses. The planets, however, from one angle, are archetypal principles, a certain kind of god or motivational force, which symbolize something, a certain corresponding forces within us. At least this is the use of astrology in a psychological sense. Other things, other types of astrologies, say different applied symbolisms, may see the planets in different ways, and there is no one way to see astrology, which is absolutely correct. But if we're looking at the astrology of personality, or the astrology of one's psyche, then the planets are seen as these forces, a certain kind of emanatory motivations within us. So therefore they relate to both a certain type of emotion, a certain type of character. They have personalities. Each has a particular god connected to it, or a series of gods, even though they're named mostly after the Roman and some Greek. They have a certain form or gestural element. They rule over or govern over a certain domain of life and have an effect within the personality. So knowing the mythic deeds, or the characters associated with the planets, can be a very fruitful form of noting how the planets appear within our personality. And they're all there, emanating their forces, bringing them out in the way we gesture, in the way we are. If they carry or convey a particular element in our personality, rather like a kind of sub-personality. Because in essence we're composed of many different kind of motivations. As biology and psychology suggests, those motivations come out. There's sexual force, there's a need to belong, there is a need to communicate and express oneself. There's a need to assert one's will. There is a need to embody the life force within us in a certain direction, in the form of vocation or purpose. We have a need to get on with people and to socialize. We have a desire to find our own aesthetic tastes, our own sense of beauty in the world. We have a need to assert our own individual will, to protect ourselves, which is the Mars function. Jupiter represents that kind of force in us which wants to push forward into life. Jupiter says there must be something more than our own what we can see. What's beyond the horizon? What's beyond the seas? What's in outer space? What's in inner space? So Jupiter is often reflected in our need for further education, to educate ourselves either inwardly or externally. It's a very important force in us because it uses the imagination to try and grasp the ungraspable, which is often why it's connected to religion and discovery and things like that. Saturn is that force which represents the principle of limitation in our life, is the skin. He is that. It's time itself, which would present a kind of a limited sphere to which our life force we can emanate and we can push out, but something we'll meet, a kind of block or an obstacle in life. In esoteric terms, this is incarnation itself, as if the sun is just simply the radiating force, but if it didn't stop anywhere, it wouldn't be unique, it wouldn't be individual, it wouldn't be contained within any particular vehicle. So Saturn, although he's the kind of dark lord of the universe, we don't usually like to see him. He's that which places limits on us. And in our early life, it's often related to authorities or the moral law or a code, a civil code by which we need to live by. The outer planets are more complicated. They represent collective forces, or the larger forces beyond us, which we can relate to but somehow work through, and they're not necessarily individual, though we have to individualize those forces and express them in our lives if they're prominent within our particular horoscope. Now, there's a rundown of the basic substances, if you like, the basic motivations of the planets, and each of these planets can be in relationship to each other. They can be conjunct, or they can be opposed, they can be warring against each other in us, and the pattern of this, solar system at the time of our birth, the pattern of it in particular signs and particular positions is said to relate to the development and the basis, the structural basis of our identity, our personality, and who we are as beings. And anyway, that's a brief introduction.